Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, greetings. This is TJ from Tampa calling. I think I heard you state that you didn't understand the narrative that Joe Flacco outplayed Watson last season. I had to call in and try to give a little truth or reason today. I know you love mentioning Flacco's interceptions on the show, which is fair. However, when you consider he came off the recliner and fell out of the sky to start at quarterback for this team, he didn't know the playbook. He didn't know the players. He was playing with third and fourth string O-linemen, no Nick Chubb. I'm willing to give the guy a little bit of a break, okay, with some of the interceptions. I can't help but think if this was Watson, we'd sure be in line making this an excuse for his play. Also, I feel Watson's 7-4 record is more reflective of the stellar defense and our coaching rather than his average quarterback play. Dave, I love you. I'm going to respectfully ask that you reconsider your take on Joe Flacco. He had this offense looking good, as it has in many, many years. All right, go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Spencer, there's truth to what he's saying, without question. Flacco threw, I think it's over 300 yards a game, so I will give you that. But if you're going to say that Watson's wins are the result of the defense, you'd have to say the same thing about Flacco. So Flacco, in the games he started, they lost to the Rams. They beat Trevor Lawrence, who was playing on a bum foot. They beat the Bears with Justin Fields. They beat the Texans with Case Keenum, and they beat the Jets with Trevor Siemian. So I think my point wasn't that Flacco didn't play well. My point was I think Watson, if he was quarterback, would have beat those teams as well. So that was the point I was making.
Yeah, listen, I think that's a fair point. I understand what the caller's saying, though, and I think part of the Flacco story is just the fact that he did stuff that we'd never seen a Browns quarterback do, right? I think I think it was three straight games, or maybe it was 4 straight games where he threw for over 300 yards, and that had never been done in Browns franchise history.
Yeah.
So when somebody does something like that, obviously it gets people excited, and Browns fans hold on to that, and they see a guy who's doing some good stuff. And I'm not saying he didn't play well, but if you really look at the advanced numbers, to your point, Dave, it wasn't like he was, up there with the great quarterbacks of the league. He was making some mistakes. He was throwing the interceptions, and you kind of get that with Joe Flacco. He's a little bit of a risk taker. But I think it was more so just that fans were seeing something they hadn't ever really seen before.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's not to discredit him.
No.
Yeah, that's not to discredit him. I mean, he was great. That ride that Browns fans got out of him was fun. But I agree with you. Like, if that Ravens game that we keep going back to was the turning the corner, if you will, for Deshaun, and he was kind of starting to play well again, I can't think of a reason why, if that was gonna be what we saw from him moving forward, that the Browns wouldn't have also won, a number of those games with him under center as well.
So here's kind of what I was getting at with Flacco. This team is a dominant defense. I don't think, and the caller said that. The one thing you can't get from quarterbacks with a dominant defense is turnovers. You can't do it. You can't put your dominant facet of your team in a hole, and turnovers do that. And there were too many interceptions. Now, it was a great story. He played well. My point was they didn't beat the great teams, and they didn't really play well. Nobody played well in the playoff game. So, but it was a great story. Leave it at that is where I'm at with it. It was great. It was a great story. We'll forever have fun with, he came off the couch and took him to the playoffs. But that's kind of where I would leave it with it.
Yeah, and I do think that playoff game sort of became a microcosm of the, I want to say luck, but just, it was kind of the story of the season, right? Like the defense had kind of gotten you to that point. And Flacco, he had his role in that, but everything kind of came undone at once in that game. Like, and you notice that the first game the defense played really, really poorly across the board. Then the issues with Flacco started coming out, right? Because he threw the pick six. He had a second interception in that game. And so it was like, okay, well, without the support of the defense, this Flacco, the aura of Flacco kind of lost its luster a little bit, if that makes sense. So I agree with you. Like, the defense definitely played a role in all that. And, it was kind of this symbiotic relationship. They both kind of needed each other. But yeah, I think in terms of like getting better quarterback play, you're hoping that Watson can return to what he showed you in the second half of that Ravens game. And if that's the case, pairing him with that dominant defense, the hope is if the defense does have a bad game like they did in Houston last year, Deshaun's the type of quarterback that can dig you out of that and doesn't make quite as many mistakes.